What's up, you guys? This is Rob from A Gay Guy Plays, and today on #confirmed, we are digging into Devstream 110 and taking a look at some of the cool new things that we should hopefully be seeing soon. So there are a lot of assets that they actually went ahead and showed. However, I don't feel like there was too many major things in there except for some last bits at the end. So let's just go ahead and jump straight on in. So first and foremost is the return, the final freaking return of the goddamn Equinox helmet that we saw ages ago. It is finally back, and they are actually working on it. It looks like it's pretty close to being done, so I'm almost hoping in seeing it like maybe next week or the week afterwards, because it looks pretty gosh darn good. As you guys know, this is the kind of like angel and demon theme between the day and night forms, and they have a really cool combined form as well. I'm really excited to see that one end game, and I mean, we're seeing a lot more Equinoxes these days, especially with Onslaught and everything that's going down there. They also gave us a sneak peek to the ceramic dagger, and also told us, because they're redoing the ceramic dagger because it was basically just another skin of the Cronus, so they're like, let's make it pretty and stand on its own. But along with that, they also kind of, I guess, teased, it's not really teased, but just let us in on the fact that they are working on more PBR updates for weapons in the backgrounds as well. Now, on to something a little bit more peculiar. As you guys know, I have been a big fan of Peculiar Bloom, and I've been anxiously awaiting the next Peculiar mod, and they did tease it on stream today. No official name for it, but basically it just causes enemies' body parts to swell when they are struck. You can give them big head syndrome, you can give them thick thigh syndrome, so you can just kind of like, I wonder what would happen with a shotgun. I mean, would just the whole thing expand? That is what I'm really curious about. They even made the enemy heights taller, they made the heads bigger. They did note that just because they made certain body parts bigger, if you know what I mean, they are not improving the hitboxes on it. So don't think that just because you can shoot him in the head and the head gets bigger that the hitbox will increase with that. It's just purely for animation's sake. So I thought that was really interesting, and I can't wait to see that in game. However, you know, I'd like something a little bit flashier. Let me know if you guys would like to see, or what you guys would like to see as a peculiar mod down in the comments below, because I am all about it. While they were in the simulacrum, they also went ahead and teased some Corpus Scrambus changes. As you guys know, one of my big pet peeves, and the same thing goes for parasitic enemies, is that none of them telegraph their abilities. They're just there being annoying as fuck, and they don't tell you where the hell they are, right? So the cool thing that they actually went ahead and introduced along to the Scrambus, oh my god, grammar's just out the window, but basically they do this like charge up attack, which will actually show you the sphere in which they will nullify your abilities. Right now it does include a knockback and, you know, kind of throw you around a little bit. However, that isn't their final form. I'm sure that they're just gonna mess around with it a little bit more, but it is definitely nice to see nullifier, I guess you would say nullifier domes, telegraph and let you know exactly where they are. I'm crossing my fingers to hopefully see the exact same thing happen with Parasitic Xmas at some point, because those guys, listen, I get it, they're there to mix up gameplay, but I like, at least give us a fighting chance to know that they're there and we're being affected, rather than just happen to notice it when we can't cast our abilities. That would be fantastic. The next thing that they went ahead and showed off, and there's really only one reason why I'm actually giving you guys this update, is that now you can shoot down Dargyn pilots from their Dargyns, and the Dargyn will slowly drop to the ground, and you could go ahead and steal it from the Dargyn pilot. So that's another way to get Dargyns, because apparently Rebecca had not been able to find any Dargyns, so that's a way to get yourself some vehicle transportation. Of course, that's not the reason why I gave a shit about it. They did note that they had it working at some point. Unfortunately, Rebecca was on controller, so it was a bit hard for her to actually, you know, get the reticule in the right place, but apparently Loki can switch teleport into a Dargyn. Okay, didn't care about the rest of it, but if Loki can switch teleport into a Dargyn, I am all about it. Really excited about that. The next thing that they wanted to chat about was actually Frame Fighter. Some people were really curious about the development process for that, when it was on its way. Are we going to be seeing it anytime soon? They do have plans to show it off at TennoCon. They've done some passes on pretty much all of the frames, so that each of them have like a unique ability to bring into Frame Fighter, but it does not seem like it's a massive focus for them right now. it's just something that they're gonna probably end up showing us in July, just for fun and games. It also doesn't sound like that they were planning on shipping it that day, just to have like a live playable version for us there. So that's definitely something that I cannot wait to see more of. I mean, I think it's just like another fun little thing that we can do in game, like Flappy Zephyr or Wormius. But from what they've spoken about and what I've been told, at least at the very least, is that it's not really something that's taking a big focus of theirs. Next on the line is, of course, the big Korra changes that we're either going to be seeing this week. Hopefully, I'm watching the clock. They said if that it's not released by 5 p.m. Pacific or 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that it's probably not going to happen until at least Monday. So we might have to trek out the weekend for that one. But they did show off the fact that Korra now has Venari as a passive. Venari is just there. And that you'll be able to swap between the different modes so that Venari will have a different stance. But also be able to target and activate the abilities so that they can actually go ahead and go after those enemies. So that's definitely nice to see. It's very, very interesting. And I want to honestly get my hands on it and see how it feels, because they did say that, you know, sending Venari in to attack enemies did feel a little bit like micromanagement in the first pass, and that's why they ended up not going with that. But now it's got a little bit of both, so we'll see exactly how that all plays out. They did show off the new kind of like targeting and animations for Whip Claw, which I'm very excited about, because I did have some issues with Whip Claw on targeting. But apparently it's going to be a little bit more receptive. You're going to be able to hit your enemies a little bit better on that one. And the animation is faster. So very excited. The next one is, of course, her third ability. Is it her? No. It's her second ability, Ensnare. Now, the thing about this one is they showed it off on stream, but I really need to play it in game to understand 100% what they mean. Because in my brain, this is the way that Ensnare currently works. Not what they showed in there. Ensnare is basically a slow propagation that goes outwards and snatches one enemy at a time. But what they're saying now is when you cast Ensnare, it's more of a forced propagation, and it will grab multiple enemies at once, and then it'll attempt to grab enemies one more time. So for me, a part of me is a little bit like, okay, so can we leave it in one spot and it will slowly continue to grab enemies still? Like, let's say I leave it in one spot and I walk away. Is it going to grab every single enemy that comes by because it's a slow propagation? Or is it going to be like, I grabbed once, I grabbed twice, you deal with the rest? Because for me, I'm like, I don't know. They are saying, however, there is a Whip Claw synergy that happens with it that'll actually force another propagation whenever you strike enemies with the Whip Claw. So a part of me is like, I want to see how this works in game, because one of my favorite things to do is to drop Ensnares at choke points and let them kind of cluster up large groups of enemies and just let them hang out there, because I run a high duration build. So I'm like, let them hang out there. Let me deal with anything that I have to deal with. Then I'll come back to like a big, nice, like fatty cluster of enemies, or my group can go back and go get them. So I'm worried that that might affect that tactic. We'll just have to see how it plays out in game. Last but not least, and I love the fact that they went ahead and did this, was, of course, the Strangle Dome buffs. You could call it a buff. I think it's more quality of life, but what happens is basically Strangle Dome now, whenever an enemy dies in Strangle Dome, they drop. And not only do they drop, the enemies also slice. So for anybody who's running Necros out there, we'll get more, what is it called? We will get more desecrates off of those bodies, because those bodies will be in little chunks that Necros can go ahead and desecrate and get maybe more life support out of. This is going to be great because I love Korra in Kuva Survival. Like, she's just absolutely fantastic for choke points. Definitely a favorite there, so I'm excited to see how Strangle Dome does. Plus, they have greatly shortened the animation on it, and makes it very, very obvious that Strangle Dome comes out from around her and not like some projectile that she throws out with her whip. because that was definitely, a couple people had some questions about that, and they're like, wait, I don't get what's happening here. So just know that the AoE does expand around her. The Strangledome is centered around her, not around anything that her whip projects. So that's definitely nice. I can't wait to see how it actually plays out in game. Really excited about Strangledome, really excited about Whip Claw. Kind of like, we'll see what happens with Venari, and we'll see what happens with the Ensnare. Those two are the ones that I am slightly worried about. But let's move on to the next thing, and this is a juicy topic. They did talk about scaling rewards for a very, very short minute, but they did want to say that this was specifically for Onslaught. So they're actually thinking about adding another rotation into Onslaught when you get into the later levels. I think that might be specifically for Elite only, though. So instead of an A, B, C, that there's gonna potentially be a rotation D somewhere that fits in there. Not 100% sure, but we'll have to see how that all pans out. But it also did open up a little bit of a dialogue, and I'm gonna be honest with you, scaling rewards I think is a little bit ridiculous. I mean, the thing about Warframe is you can spend 20 minutes in a mission, or you can spend 40 minutes in a mission, but the choice to go 40 minutes in a mission should be up to the player and should never feel forced because of the fact that you need specific rewards. And some people have always kind of pushed that, well, we should get rewarded more, we should get rewarded more. I'm like, no, it's just your choice to go longer if you want to go longer. If you want a challenge, it's your choice to do that. But players should never ever feel like they have to stay longer in a mission to get optimal rewards. Because that's definitely something that we saw in the old Void Key era, and that's really what pushed some terrible, terrible metas and made the community a bit toxic. They're like, if you don't run it X, Y, and Z way, then why are you even playing? So that's kind of one of the reasons why it's like scaling rewards is definitely not on the menu for me, at least. So moving on to brighter topics, we have Venus. This is something I didn't expect. They dropped some Venus footage on us, but it was more of the inside of the civilization area, and they just kind of like walked around and panned around, but you could definitely see, and it was gorgeous. It was absolutely freaking gorgeous. I know that they still have more interior work to make it look all pretty and perfect, and I'm sure they'll get it polished and everything, but from what I've seen so far, it's absolutely fantastic. They even did a little bit of an animation trailer on some of the locals walking around in water. I don't know if it was a local, but it was a Corpus thing that was walking around in the waters. So it's really cool to see Venus starting to come together, and I can't wait till we end up seeing more of it. Now, the last thing, and I don't really know what I want to say about this, but they did tease a little bit of the sacrifice. So the first image that they showed off was someone crossing their arms very sassily and leaning on a pillar. I was checking on Twitter, and there were definitely a couple people that threw out some very interesting guesses as to what it could be. Like Maru, maybe it could be your doppelganger, you know what I mean? It could be that, or, and this is one of the things that I noticed, is the like the physical, like the body scan actor, I don't know what that's called, had his hand behind his back. No, I'm thinking maybe that has to do with like having to unfurl an arm or something. It's just my guess. And then the last thing that they showed us was this really cool art that they did, concept art for the sacrifice. And tell me if I'm crazy, but is that Excalibur like getting like sliced into like little vertices? Is that what it is? It's just kind of like, you know how they'll do like scans of a person's body and they'll show you little chunks of it each time? That's what it almost looks like. It's almost like he's being disassembled. So I'm not 100% sure what it is on that. Let me know if you guys have any theories, and maybe we'll cover that in a future video. Toss all of your feelings down in the comments below. Are you guys excited for that Equinox helmet? Because I'm so happy. I'm gonna try switching teleport with Loki again. That's gonna be fun. That's probably gonna be the only thing that I put out there. And again, what peculiar mods would you like to see in game? Toss that all in the comments below. And as always, that about does it for me. So love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.